And now, in a continent where mobile money has truly transformed financial services, aviation payments have been an enormous opportunity, as well as recognizing the significant untapped potential. Our next presentation is going to examine the evolution of the payment systems within African aviation, looking to digital solutions, to local payment methods, as well as the profound importance of financial inclusion. Ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of Visa, please help me give a very warm welcome to Ms. Megan Rabe, who is the Vice President for Merchant Services, Acquiring, and FinTech for Sub-Saharan Africa. Let's welcome her with a round of applause.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to talk about payments. I see there's a bit of an echo. I hope that's not disturbing. And you might ask, we're talking about aviation. Why are we talking about payments? Well, I don't want you to think about payments as a cost. I don't want you to think about all of those processes of things. I want you to think about payments as an engine for additional revenue. And that's what we're going to be unpacking today. Alfred F. Kelly, one of our founders, put forward this quote that you can see in front of you, saying, "Every day, Visa supports digital commerce and money movement across countries throughout Africa. This is for resilience, innovation, and inclusive economies. And this is how we spur the African economy." And that's what we're going to be talking about. I am Megan Rabe. I look after the merchant services, acquiring, and fintech business across sub-Saharan Africa. So I am probably a client of every single one of you that's in this room, and I use your services a lot. I fly across Africa maybe 10 days on average. Every 10 days I'm in a different country, and I have the privilege of utilizing your services. I also have the privilege of understanding deeply what happens when I'm booking that ticket and the payment doesn't go through, and how I then potentially shift to another service provider where the payment goes through. So let's think about that. I want you to think about what is the future of payments. A quick question. How many of you have used ChatGPT or Perplexity or one of those in the last, let's say, 7 days? Hands up. Okay, about 70% of the audience. How many have used it in the last 2 days? And how many of you that were traveling potentially into South Africa used it to think, should I go shopping at Sandton City or Melrose Arch? Like, we all know you're also going to maybe pop out to the shops. So this is the future of commerce. This is the future of how to tap into the next generation. I'm going to play a video, and then let's unpack how this will impact the airline industry.
Introducing Visa Intelligent Commerce, allowing AI to shop and buy. Add, smile, done. It's that simple. You're in control to make the final call. Or you set the limits and let it do the rest. New way to buy, same trusted, secure way to pay. Visa Intelligent Commerce. Use AI to buy.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is happening now. Agentic Commerce. Agentic Commerce transactions, the first one took place about 6 months ago in the US, and subsequently it's happening around the world. Let me bring this closer to home. You spend a lot of money on your websites, your search criteria, making sure that I can select that flight easily. But the future is, I may not go onto your respective websites. I may log on to ChatGPT and say, I'm planning a family holiday to Kenya. I have got 2 boys, 1 naughty 4-year-old, so I don't want him to be in business class. We're traveling economy, and we don't want to raise spoiled children. But my husband and I, okay, maybe we should settle on premium economy. We then want a safari. We want go shopping. We want to immerse ourselves into the best restaurants. We put all this into ChatGTP. It comes up with my itinerary. Gives me the options. Today, I painfully have to click on all the little links, and I go and buy. What will happen and what Visa is developing today with the future of commerce is I click buy in ChatGTP. It will then automatically have an agentic agent that is security controlled. You've set it up with security controls. It only acts when you authorize it to act, and will use your card that you have said is relevant. It will buy. It will go buy those premium economy flight tickets. It will book the safari. It will even book the transfers, and it will make the reservation at the restaurant. And that will all be in a click of a button. So what Visa does is supports you to understand and how do you think about this differently. And one of the interesting things is our websites are designed for a human to log on. It's got beautiful pictures, etc. What's going to happen is the websites that are cleaner and more succinct, an AI agent will navigate to and put at the top of the list, because the less data it uses, the less memory it uses, the more efficient it's going to be. So that's the future, and I'm saying the future is now. So let's take this a little bit step closer to where we are today. I'm going to drill into 3 chapters and speak about, firstly, is conversion. Now, I spoke about, let's not think about payments as a cost, but think about how is it a revenue generating mechanism in your business. How many of you know how many payments are failed in the checkout process in your online commerce today? If you don't, I'd suggest you speak to the person that manages that in your organization and find out. Because what we often do when we partner with airlines is we would go and say, okay, potentially your authorization rates are sitting at 60%. And just a few tweaks, a few tools can upgrade that from 60 to 80%, and that's millions. That's not payments going through, that's seats being occupied. The world is rewiring, digital first approach. A number of you, I'm sure, learned in business school about Netflix and Airbnb and how quickly they scaled. 1 million users took Netflix 3.5 years, Airbnb 2.5 years. I might be giving my age away, but say 20 years ago at university, that's a bit of a push, I might be ambitious, a little bit longer, this would have been life-changing. Now, ChatGTP, 1 million users in 5 days. And Threads, if you don't know what Threads is, Google it. Threads, 1 million users in 1 hour. Now think about how does that transform your e-commerce business? How should you be thinking about digitalizing, creating this usability a lot more friendly? This behavior is replicated into digital payments, and we see this across the board in terms of understanding how revenue is generated, as well as making sure we understand the African continent. We spend a lot of time with our partners looking at diaspora flows. We, of course, live in a part of the world where a diaspora community is the largest and travels the most. How do we tap into that? How do we partner you with a remittance player that is pushing remittance flows but knows that Dirty December is happening in Nigeria and there's a huge amount of inflows coming through? We look at that and we synthesize all of this together. But despite all of these advancements and technological improvements, we still have a number of partners that are struggling. And they struggle with the fraud. They look at digital payments as potentially some of the risks. But we've got the tools like tokenization. Again, I'm happy to talk to some of you in the break around some of these detailed tools, as well as merchant categories. So there's a ways for us to be able to partner with certain banks to manage the fraud and risk elements in our payment ecosystem. Inclusion. In preparing for today, I took a few snippets just from some recent articles that were covering some news. So we can see, we've spoken about it over the last few days. Aviation, African Airlines, growth by 11.7% in passenger demand. 18% surge in cargo. There's a rebound, 24 million seats. The world is changing, we're rapidly growing. But there's a merge of this with payments. On your right-hand side, you can see top payment revolution. We spoke about mobile money at the start. You might say to me, how do I take a USSD coded mobile money wallet and integrate that through to my ecosystem? Well, what Visa's doing across the continent is partnering with all of the mobile wallet providers and putting a virtual Visa credential on that wallet for e-commerce transactions. So a consumer, a diaspora, etc., can now book and pay with a card linked to the wallet. So why is this lady on stage talking to you about payments, and it's quite far removed? There's somebody in operations that's problem this is. And that is because I'm talking about rands and seats. I'm talking bums in seats. So conversions, more bookings I've spoken about. The cost, fewer failures, less manual reconciliations, as well as the operational burden of managing this through a lot of travel agents, etc. We, of course, support the travel agents, we support the airlines, but how do you synchronize this? And we've got the tools to help with those reconciliations. Cash flow. More reliable collections. We've seen that through digital payments, cash flow can increase by 10 to 20% year on year with the improvement of digital solutions, as well as customer value. So we look at the use case, the onboarding journeys, and the user experience for customers through this process. I wanted to show some of the pain points, and this is where things really start to fall apart. So at this point in time, we search, we select, and we want to pay. And then there's often some of these mismatches. So you can see on the slide there, we've got a checkout mismatch. Our banking partners have got a number of rules to say, okay, what is the likelihood of this person traveling? Would they be traveling, all of a sudden they bought an expensive business class ticket? It may trigger a fraud alert. So those checkout mismatches could result in a hit. Transaction failures. Is this above the consumer's limit? Do they even know what their card limit is? It fails. And customer exclusion. Certain of our markets, unfortunately, are not automatically approved by banking rules because these cards are usually accepted in European markets or potentially in the UAE. And then fraud hits again. So understanding all of this is what we do with our partners, and then we put in systems and controls to make sure that those, and there's more, examples of failed payments are then taken care of. You can see all the way from data intelligence, tokenization, all the way down to higher authorization rates. So if the only thing you take out of hearing from me today is two things. Agentic Commerce is coming, and please go back into your organizations and ask, what is my payment authorization rates? And if it's not sitting at 95%, please engage with us at Visa. Lastly, cross-border and co-brand. So this is the obvious one, right? So everything I spoke about up until now is probably maybe not so obvious, but one of the true powers that we do is we build co-brand loyalty partnerships with airlines. And how do we unpack that? Again, if we look at partners, we could deeply understand and develop client value propositions for specific target markets. There we've put in just a few. So you've got the diaspora family that's traveling back home for Dirty December. You've got an SME mobility. A lot of people are more traveling now for business, as well as obviously our international travelers coming into Africa. And you can develop a co-brand opportunity where you could have X airline branded card with a huge amount of loyalty that comes through. What was interesting in COVID, we saw that a number of airlines, profitability was relatively maintained because of their strong co-brand card projects. And that is because these cards can be utilized for daily spend, etc., and not just for airline tickets. And then you get a cash flow economies of scale flowing into your ecosystem. Let's talk about the evolution of card payments in the airline space. So we had the basic credit card, we had cashback, and we had bank loyalty programs. If we look at our African markets, majority of our markets are actually sitting somewhere between cashback and loyalty programs. But if you look at global trends and how to drive the airline industry and evolution in terms of payments, we see airline co-brand cards being one of the strongest in the world. In the US, in the UAE, even in Asia Pacific. The airline cards, people will pull out an airline card for everyday spend before they would pull out their everyday banking card, and that's because of the miles and everything that's created in those cards. I know I'm often asked, but Megan, we are far away from UAE. We're in Africa. Like, we've got different problems. And we've even got proven concepts in developing markets of how this can really be a profit engine for an airline. This is just one of the examples of a premium one. Of course, the Skyward Signature credit card. I'm sure a majority of you are quite familiar with this. But this is a good example of one where they've partnered with all the stores in the local airport. They've got obviously special discounts through with a number of players when you travel, lounges, etc., etc. And you could build this value proposition, like I say, depending on the personas you wanted to tap into. So again, going back to that slide I had, we had the diaspora, the business person, the foreign traveler. You could develop specific CVPs for those portfolio management solutions. So, in a nutshell, how can Visa help? We can help you with market and corridor insights. We've got an abundance of data. The magic and secret sauce of Visa is our data. And so if you're looking at how to expand your business, corridors, etc., we can deploy specific consultants to help you look at that. Acceptance and transactions performance. So that's again the authorization rates that I was referring to. Looking at secure digital experiences. Thinking about the future, thinking about that digital first consumer, that Gen Z that we know in Africa is going to take flight in the next 3 to 5 years. And then converging. If you've got a strategy where you want to tap into the fintech ecosystem, for example, the mobile money ecosystem, we do a very good job in terms of marrying the right partners and looking at how do we collaborate and synthesize all of that together. Thank you very much. I know that I was meant to leave a few minutes for questions. So happy to take any questions or comments.
Thank you for that presentation. I am interested in the branding and co-branding aspect of it, both the single and multiple. Does an airline require, I don't know, the rules might differ from country to country, financial compliance registry of sorts to do that? And in your experience, is it better to co-brand with a local bank or directly with you? Just if you can expand on that. Thank you.
Great question. Thank you. So that's actually what we do all day, every day, is majority of the regulations locally require a bank to hold a store of value or to issue a card. I'd say 95% of our markets in Africa, that is what you would require. So we would partner with you and we would understand who are you targeting, which market you're targeting in terms of a client value proposition, and we would marry you with what we call a BIN sponsorship, a bank, that would then sponsor a Visa BIN, And then it becomes a three-way partnership between yourselves, Visa, and the respective bank to develop that client value proposition for the respective target markets. But we help you do that. So it's not that you come to us once you've fully baked and found all your partners. We support you in that journey. Excellent. So if you're shy and you'd like to ask a few questions in the coffee break, myself and my colleague in the front, Jachonse, would be obliging to answer any questions. Thank you very much for your time. Appreciate it.
Megan, when I go back to Nairobi on Friday on my SAA flight operated by Kenya Airways, I'm using my Visa card, just to let you know. So we're putting it all together. Thank you so much once again for that incredible presentation, and I think it's a fantastic precursor to the kinds of conversations as well that we can expect at the Safety and Operations Summit.